Everybody, and good morning. Welcome to the lesson today, and it's a grammar lesson. Specifically, the topic is clause structure and verb patterns. So it's a difficult title, but basically we explain today the subject, the verb, and the object, the typical structures in English to create a sentence. That basically is the content of today's lesson, because typically we have a subject at the sentence, or a clause, and we have a verb, and we have an object. This is known as a transitive verb, but it's possible just a subject and a verb with no object, and this is known as intransitive verbs. So it's very, very technical. Today we have a lot of expressions. For example, a noun phrase is the start of the subject, the start of the sentence, or clause typically is a noun phrase. Sometimes it's one subject and sometimes it's longer, a lot of adjectives. We also have the verb phrase, which could be the verbal tense, present perfect, past perfect, present simple, etc. The imperative is very important. It's an order and an instruction. And typically with imperative, there is no subject, and usually it's an order or an instruction in English. A dummy subject is very, very important in English. Basically, this is the subject it. When we say it, for example, it is raining, it is sunny, in English, the majority of the time we need a subject, and when you have no subject, we need it. So that's really important part today. The dummy subject. Transitive, as I said, is the verb that has an object, subject, verb, object. This is a transitive verb. And intransitive is the verb that does not require an object. For example, the verb to smile. He smiles. There is no object in that sentence. Ergative verbs are the two types. You can have possibly object or no object. It's possibly transitive or possibly not transitive. Ergative are flexible. And finally, link verbs is typically the verb to be, when you maybe have an adjective as the object. So it's very interesting, and this is nearly the final part of the grammar explanation from the British Council website. And in the last weeks I have been teaching different topics every day, and we are nearly finished this grammar explanation, and this topic today is important, and we have more lots of information today in the lesson. Subtitles. You can select subtitles for this lesson to understand me better. You can select the option of subtitles, and hopefully you can see exactly what I am saying during this lesson, and that's a good assistance and a good support for you. Social media. If you want to contact me and follow me on social media, you can connect on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, and WhatsApp. They are all the social media channels, and you're very welcome to join and follow me on those channels, and hopefully I will have more content on each platform. Next week, my schedule and my timetable next week will be different. I am planning to change my schedule and timetable a little, because, for example, look at the time, it's 10 to 8, and I originally planned the lesson at 9. So it's a big change from the time, and next week I plan to have a different schedule and a different timetable related to the content and my project. I have different ideas also. For example, writing. I can correct your writing, and I want to offer different services as well, starting hopefully from next week too, because my project was to teach English for free online on Facebook Live for the public every day, and this started during the pandemic, and today I'm happy with this, but I need to change a little, and every week I try to change a little. So if you want to support me, if you want to tip me, if you want to make a donation or a subscription, you can support me via the bank details here, or possibly via PayPal. All the information is on my Facebook post as well if you want to support me. So as I said, next week probably the schedule and the timetable will be a little different, and maybe tomorrow I will update you with all the information. Similarly, if you're a business, if you are a company and you want to sponsor my project, you can advertise during my lessons as well. And that's another possibility. And I'm available to maybe promote your business or promote your school during these lessons as well. So that's another option. Okay, let's begin. So, as you know, this website is very, very good for grammar. And this website is one of my favorites to understand and to learn English grammar. Specifically, it's the British Council website, and you go to the section of Learn English. So into Google or type on the internet, learnenglish.britishcouncil.org, and you go to the grammar section. And there's another step, but basically you need to find the verb section in the English grammar section. And specifically today in the verb section, we move to the topic of clause structure and verb patterns. So yes, it's full of content, it's full of information, it's full of theory, very, very heavy theory, but it's very interesting as well. So I hope you enjoy a little, I hope that you learn, and hopefully it will be good. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if you had feedback, please put your question in the Facebook chat. Please put your comment in the Facebook chat, and I will be able to answer your comment at the end of the lesson, and I will be able to respond to you as well in this way. Okay, so what is the topic for today? Learn about clause structure and common verb patterns and do the exercises. So a pattern, what is a pattern? A pattern is like a routine, something that happens regularly, something that happens frequently again and again and again. This is a pattern similar to a routine. Similar. For example, on your clothes, you can have a pattern as well. It's a design that has repetition. It's a pattern on your clothes, on some products as well. You have a pattern, like a design that repeats. Okay, so let's begin with level elementary, level basic. And this is very, very important to understand at the beginning. Some people speak very well English, speak English very, very well, and maybe do not understand the foundation of grammar or the basics of grammar. So this, I think, is very important for everybody to refresh and to check again the significance of the basic explanations. A clause. What is a clause? A clause usually is a part of a sentence. A sentence is very long, possibly, and the sentence possibly contains 2 or 3 clauses. Therefore, a clause frequently has a subject, a verb, maybe an object, and then you maybe have a linker to link or to connect another clause. And that's the idea. So a clause is like a mini sentence in a sentence. So all clauses in English have at least 2 parts. Okay, so the definition of a clause is at least 2 parts. For example, subject, verb. It's possibly 3 parts, subject, verb, object, but at least 2 parts in every clause. So for example, a noun phrase, subject, and a verb phrase. And here are the examples of the noun phrases. For example, the children is plural, singular is one child, and plural is irregular children. So one child, 6 children. Irregular plural, this is the subject of the sentence, and this also is known technically, grammatically, as a noun phrase. So it's very grammatical, but basically it's a subject of a sentence. The verb phrase is just a verb. Okay, so you've different conjugations, different formulas. In this case, it's the past simple. In the second case, it's the past continuous. So you have different tenses, different forms, and that's known technically for this lesson as a verb phrase. So the subject is the noun phrase, the children laughed, verb. Okay, that's considered a clause. because probably it's a long sentence and this is just the very beginning. Next, all the people in the bus. This is the subject and it's very long because it's all the people and more specifically in the bus, and this is a long subject, and this is the reason it's known as a noun phrase, because the people are the noun and it's in a phrase and it represents the subject of the sentence. So all the people in the bus, again, it's plural, irregular, one person, two people. One person, six people. So singular is person, plural is people. And the verb phrase for this particular sentence, clause were watching, and this is the past continuous. So all the people in the bus were watching. Okay, that's the subject or the noun phrase plus the verb, which is also known as the noun, the verb phrase. But most clauses have more than two parts. As I said, most sentences, most clauses have more than subject and verb. And here are the examples. The subject or the noun phrase is John, subject. The verb is to want in the past, wanted. And the object, a new bicycle. So John wanted a new bicycle. So that's the noun phrase, the verb phrase, and the object, I suppose. Maybe the object phrase, but there's no definition here. Next example, all of the girls. This is the subject, but really it's a phrase, so it's considered a noun phrase. Are learning is the present continuous, and we have the auxiliary, the to be, plus the gerund, and the gerund is the ing form, and this is the present continuous, and the object, the third part, is English. All the girls are learning English. Okay, next. This soup is the subject, and it's two words, so it's considered a type of phrase, a noun phrase. This soup is the subject. Taste is the verb, and it's the third person, so it has the S, tastes. This soup tastes awful, very bad, terrible, dreadful. That was a nice word yesterday. Dreadful, awful, terrible, really, really bad. So this soup tastes awful. Noun phrase, verb phrase, and object or adjective. Next example. Mary and the family is the subject and it's considered a verb phrase. Were driving is the verb. Sorry, this is the noun phrase, and the second one is the verb. Were driving in the past continuous, so it's the verb phrase to Madrid. So this is the third part. Next, she, subject, noun phrase, verb, verb phrase, put, object, the flowers in a vase. So this is a double object sentence. Okay. The first noun phrase of a sentence is the subject. So we have seen this already. The noun phrase at the beginning typically is the subject. English clauses always have a subject, always. And this is very important because in Spanish, for example, the subject is not always present. The subject does not always appear. But in English, it's necessary almost always to have the subject. For instance, his father is the subject, and this is the noun phrase. Has retired is the verb phrase. It's the present perfect, the auxiliary have, plus the participle. This is considered the present perfect. It started in the past, it's finished, but the consequences are very relevant to now, to the present, and just has the significance very recently. He was a teacher, so the subject he, necessary, always necessary, a subject. He, the father, the verb was, the verb to be in the past was, object, a teacher. Not was a teacher. It's necessary to include, it's necessary to have he, she, he, we, you, I, always necessary to have the subject. That's massively important at the beginning of learning English. Next, I am waiting for my wife, subject, auxiliary verb to be plus the gerund. This is the present continuous. Preposition, typical with wait, waiting for. Object, my wife. Okay, she is late. Subject, she. The verb to be, adjective, late. So it's necessary in the clause always to have the subject, more or less. There's a little more advanced, sometimes you can remove, but at the beginning it's good practice and important to include the subject. So she is late, not is late, she is late. Except, except for the imperative. What is the imperative? The imperative is an instruction, an order, and when we give the imperative, there is no subject. Okay, so this is used for orders, invitations, and requests. For instance, stop. That's an order, it's an instruction, stop. There's no subject. It's possible you stop, he stops, but in the instruction, in the order, the imperative, there generally is no subject. Next, please come to dinner. This is an invitation, it's an order, it's a request, and there's no subject because it's the imperative. So all clauses have the subject except the imperative. That's important. So technically, grammatically, you must try to remember this. Next, play it again, please. Play is the verb. There is no subject. It is the object. So no subject because it's an order, request, and invitation, I suppose. So play it again. It's an instruction, please. Now, this is really, really important part of today's lesson. Very, very important, this part. Because if we have no other subject, if there is no person, no subject, still it's necessary to invent a subject, still. And this invention could be there or it. For example, there is no chocolate in the kitchen. There is no time to do something. That's the subject there. And this is known as the dummy subject. A dummy is typically fake because in the shop, in the window of the shop, you have the dummy, and the dummy is to show the clothes, but the dummy is a fake person. It's a model or a mannequin. So a dummy is very important. Also for the baby has a dummy, and the dummy is the object that the baby puts in the mouth to feel more comfortable when they have problems with their teeth. It's a dummy or a soother. It's a very difficult vocabulary. So a dummy is very important, like a fake or a false subject. For example, there were, in the past, 20 people at the meeting. So there is no specific subject, but we need to invent and insert the dummy subject. So there were 20 people at the meeting, and that's very, very important. There will be an eclipse of the moon tonight. There is no subject, so we must include there. It is a lovely day. Again, the verb is to be, and always we need the clause, always we need the subject in a clause. And it's necessary the dummy subject when there's no other possibility. It's nearly 1 o'clock is another possibility. Okay, questions. Choose a word or words which make up the subject of each sentence. So specifically, we need to find the subject of each sentence. 2 of the sentences have no subject, so we are looking specifically for the subject of the sentence. So this is the sentence, sorry. That's an adjective, I think. I cannot remember your name. So the verb is to remember. And can, we've 2 verbs. Can is the modal, and remember is the second verb. It's the negative, cannot. So the ability, I don't have the ability to remember your name. What is the subject of the sentence? The subject is I. The object, your name. So the subject clearly is I. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for the subject or the noun phrase. Okay, next, obviously we have a lot of exercises here. Subject again, it snowed last night. So the verb is to snow, it's related to the weather. Generally there's no subject, but when there's no subject we need to insert the dummy subject, and the dummy subject is it. And that's good, and that's correct, and that's nice as well. Next, your black jeans are in the washing machine. So the verb is to be in the plural in the present. You are, they are. So it's the plural in the present, and the subject is your black jeans. This is more a phrase, therefore it's the noun phrase. And yes, we need to select everything. Your black jeans. Okay, let's continue. And in 1900, there were more than 6 million people living in London. So we are looking for the verb, and the verb is living, the verb to live in the gerund, activity, living. And we have another verb to be in the past, more than 6 million people. So the subject is there. It's only one word, that's the subject, also known as the noun phrase. And that is the correct answer, I think, there. Just simply the subject of the sentence. Okay. Another subject would be more than 6 million people is another subject, long subject. So let's select that. More than 6 million. Oh, there's only one answer. Okay, that's good. So let's continue to the next question. Please put those chairs in the corner. Okay, so please is a request. And when you have the request, it's typically the imperative, and the verb is to put. So because it's an imperative, there is no subject. Because it's an instruction, it's a request, it's an invitation, it's an order, imperative. There is no subject. The verb is put, the object is those chairs, and in the corner is another type of object. So what is the subject? Well, there is no subject. Next. The Secretary General of the United Nations made an important speech this morning. So the verb is to make, it's the past made, irregular, make, made. The object is a speech, the adjective important, article, and time this morning. And the subject, what is the subject? Well, the Secretary General of the United Nations is the full subject. That seems to be the full subject, the noun phrase. And I think that's correct. Let's continue. Don't talk to your mother like that. So be polite, be respectful, even though you're frustrated. Don't talk to anybody like that. So this is an instruction, it's an order, and there's no subject because it's the imperative. So all clauses have a subject except the imperative. And here the verb is to talk, preposition to, object your mother, and it's the negative, but the subject does not appear because it's the imperative. So let's select no subject. Let's continue. You and your husband would be very welcome to join us for dinner. So a lot of clauses. The verb. The verb is the verb to be, and this is the modal as well. Would be, hypothetically, you and your husband would be very welcome to join is another verb, us for dinner. The subject, you and your husband, that is the noun phrase, also known as the subject because it's a phrase, a noun phrase. You and your husband, I think, are the subjects or the noun phrase of this sentence. Okay, next, 4 more. There are some excellent pubs and restaurants in this city. So the verb is to be in the plural, and the subject is not really appropriate, but because there's no real subject, we need to use the dummy subject, and the dummy subject is there. So there are, that's the verb, and the subject is there, and that's also the noun phrase. There are some excellent pubs and restaurants in this city. So for me, the subject is just there. Next, 3 more. Guess what? It's my birthday today. So guess what? Can you imagine? Do you know what's happening? Guess what? It's my birthday today. The verb is to be, and there is no real subject. So because there's no real subject, we must put the dummy subject in the position, and the dummy subject is just it. So guess what? It is my birthday today. The subject is it, and this is known as the dummy subject. Two more. The lady in the tourist office was really helpful. So the verb is to be in the past. The adjective is helpful. Really is an intensifier. So very helpful, really helpful. And the lady is the subject of the sentence. The location, she is in the tourist office. So I think that's the noun phrase. And that's the full part of the subject. So it's the full part of the noun phrase. So the lady in the tourist office is the full subject. Next, finally, what you need is a nice long holiday. So the verb is to be and also the verb to need. So we have two verbs, but I think the principal main verb is the verb to be, is a nice long holiday. This is difficult. This is very, very difficult because there's two verbs. So the subject, I think, is what you need. In my opinion, all of this is the subject, and that's the noun phrase, and that is what you need. And then I think I might have some mistakes. Of course, I may have some incorrect answers, but now is the time to check the answers. Good, everything was correct. 22 from 22. Okay. Now let's move to the verb patterns. This is the next part of today's lesson. Maybe you take a little break for a second for some water. If you have a question, please put your question in the Facebook chat. It's obviously very early in the morning, but still it's a good opportunity to send a message, to leave feedback, and to leave a comment about the lessons as well. So please go ahead and leave a message and a comment about the lesson as well. Okay, let's move to verb patterns. And again, a pattern is something regular, like a routine, or something frequent in the same manner. Different verbs have different patterns. So, therefore, the structure of the clause depends on the verb. So a bit difficult. So different verbs have different patterns. Therefore, the structure of the clause depends on the verb. Transitive and intransitive verbs. So what is a transitive and intransitive verbs? Basically, most verbs in English are either transitive or intransitive. A transitive verb has the structure noun, verb, noun. So basically subject, verb, object. That's the typical structure for transitive verb. It could be the active voice and it also could be the passive voice as well. That's known as a transitive verb because we have a noun before the verb and another noun. Okay, transitive verbs need an object. So the necessity, the transitive verb needs an object, and common transitive verbs are bring, buy, enjoy, like, make, take, want, and wear. So here's the example. John wanted a new bicycle. This is transitive because the noun is the subject, John. The verb is wanted in the past, and the next noun is a new bicycle, which is also the object. So John wanted a new bicycle. That is the structure of a transitive verb. And an intransitive verb has the structure noun and verb. So there's no object. And that's the difference between transitive and intransitive. For example, John smiled. So there's no object required. There's no object necessary in this case. Intransitive verbs do not have an object. And then common intransitive verbs are arrive. You arrived late, no object. Cry, he cried, no object. Die, the animal died, no object. He fell, in the past irregular, no object, etc. Happen, laugh, pronunciation, laugh, smile, and work. Some verbs can be either transitive or intransitive, and I think this is known as ergative verbs. So some are possible transitive or intransitive. For example, the verb to sing. In the past irregular, she sang a wonderful aria. I don't know what aria is. It's a type of a song, perhaps. So she sang in the past a magnificent, a wonderful aria. That is noun, subject, verb, noun, object. So noun, verb, noun, that's transitive. She is the subject, sang is the verb, and wonderful aria is the object. However, the verb to sing is possible intransitive with no object, just we were singing. This is the noun phrase, we were. Sorry, this is the noun phrase, we. So the subject, we, and the verb phrase is were singing, is the past continuous, and that does not require the object. Okay, and again, another verb is to play. We is the subject or the noun. The verb phrase is were playing, that's the past continuous, and the next noun is football, and that's the object of the sentence. We were playing football, or we were just playing, no object. So common verbs that have possibly an object or possibly no object are draw, follow, help, learn, ride, study, watch, write. Okay, and that's very, very interesting and a very important concept grammatically, and this is known as transitive or intransitive verbs. So let's check the exercise. Look at the verb in each pair of examples. Is it transitive, intransitive, or both? So choose the correct option. For example, thanks for the party. I really enjoyed it. So I really enjoyed the party. Thanks for the party. Have a good holiday. Try to enjoy yourself. So we are looking specifically at the verb in each pair of examples. So the verb is to enjoy. Is it transitive, intransitive, or both? So I really enjoyed it. This is the subject. This is an adverb, so you can forget this for the calculation. Subject, verb, object. This is transitive in this case, okay, because it has an object. But the second example, enjoy, is the verb and we have the object. So again, that's another example with the verb enjoy with an object. So enjoy yourself is a transitive verb, I would suggest. Next, option 2. I will phone you, the future, I will phone you. Modal, but I will phone you when I arrive at my hotel. So the verb is to arrive, the subject is I, and the object is my hotel. So that clearly is transitive in the first example. But the second example, what time did this letter arrive? So it's a question. The affirmative is the time this letter arrived was 6 o'clock. So that would be transitive. But in the question, I'm confused because it's a question. So the subject is this letter arrived. I think the time is the object. I think that's transitive. It's difficult because it's in the form of the question, but I'm trying to stick with the first answer, and I think the first answer is transitive. I could be wrong. Let's continue to option 3. You look like you are lost. Can I help? Another question, so I am confused. Go and help your mother make the dinner. So the verb is to help. The affirmative, I can help. There's no object, but the assumption is help you. Can I help you? But there's no object in the sentence, but the assumption is you're helping the person. So I think that's intransitive. Go and help your mother. That is the object. Your mother is the object, and that is considered transitive or intransitive. And this is an imperative because it's an order and an instruction, so there's no subject. Go and help your mother make the dinner. So I think this verb help is possibly transitive or intransitive, and I think technically that's known as ergative verb, but we will see that later. Next, number 4. Why are you laughing at me. So the verb is to laugh. The preposition is at me. Have I said something funny? So there's two, for example, when I told Anthony about my problems, he just laughed. The subject is he. Just is a type of an adverb, and laughed is the verb, so there's no object, so that is intransitive. But the second example, why are you laughing at me, is a question, and the subject is you, but the object is me. So that's transitive or intransitive. It's optional. But there is a big difference to laugh at you or to laugh with you. This is a very famous distinction and very famous difference. The preposition is very, very important. And if somebody laughs at you, it's very insulting and it's not nice. It's impolite. But if somebody laughs with you, you are having a good time together. So there's a big, big, big difference between laugh at somebody, like to bully, or to laugh with somebody, to have a good time with somebody. So there's a big difference between the two. I think this is transitive or intransitive. Let's continue to the next example. I am, subject, verb, a French teacher. But, in fact, I studied geography at university. Before my final exam, I studied 10 hours every day for a month. So difficult. The verb is to study. The first example is the subject, the verb in the past simple plus the object, I studied geography. And the second example, I studied 10 hours every day. I think both examples have an object, in my opinion. What do you think? I think both examples have an object, and therefore it's transitive, in my opinion. I could be wrong, and I have a feeling I have a couple of mistakes in this exercise. There's no need for you to buy anything for my birthday. There is no need for you to buy anything for my birthday. The verb is to buy. I would love to buy those earrings, but they're too expensive. So there's no need for you, subject, to buy, verb, anything is the object. That is transitive. Second example, I would love, that's the subject, to buy, verb, those earrings is the object. So this is transitive as well. Let's continue. I need is the subject, the verb. To take is the verb. A shower is the object. This is transitive. Can I ask you to take our photograph? So there's a subject. I ask you. To take is the verb, and our photograph is the object. So I think, again, this is transitive. Let's continue. The film is the subject. Was is the verb, to be in the past. Adjective, frightening. And so plus that is for consequences. I could not watch. The assumption is the movie. So basically, I could not watch the movie. But in the sentence, there's no object. That's a big, interesting confusion, because normally you watch the movie, you watch the television, but in this case, this object is not here. So I'm thinking it's intransitive, but let's continue. Can you watch those cakes? Again, that is object. So it's transitive or intransitive. It's optional to have the object. Next, King Richard III of England died in August 1485. Hundreds of climbers have died on Mount Everest. So the subject is King Richard III. Died is the verb, and in August is not really the object, I don't think. Hundreds, yeah, this is tricky because it's not direct object. This is confusing. I'm going to take a risk, big risk, and say intransitive verb. Next. This mouse on the computer, this mouse does not function, does not work. This is the subject, and the verb is work. There's no object. Intransitive. I think it needs a new battery. Would you prefer to work from 7 to 3 or 9 to 5? Again, it's a time. I don't know if that's classified as an object. So I think no. I think there's no object. I think that's intransitive again. So this exercise is very interesting. Next. If, conditional, if you follow me, I will show you the rest of the house. I don't remember this song very well. You start and I will follow. So if you will follow me, me is the object. You start and I'll follow, and that is the verb with no object. So they are optional, transitive or intransitive for the verb to follow. Last exercise. Milton is a name. Always adverb wears very smart clothes. He must be rich. Question. Are you wearing your new dress to the party? So you is the subject, wearing is the verb. Your new dress is clearly the object. But in the first one, Milton is the subject. Object is very smart clothes. So that is transitive in my opinion. I think I might have a couple of mistakes, of course, but let's select the answers and check what the final result is. 3 mistakes. So what are the mistakes? This is correct, 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 correct. Okay, so the mistake is here. I am a French teacher, but in fact I studied geography. That's the object, clearly. Before my final exam, I studied 10 hours. So yes, sorry, that is no object. It's just the time, and that was the confusion I had. So technically it's just the subject and the verb with no object. And I think that would be both optional. Other error is this one. When I told Anthony about my problems, he just laughed. That's intransitive, no object. Why are you laughing at me? Okay, so in this case, there's no object considered in this sentence. It's not an object. At me is not considered the object, so that is probably considered intransitive. And this is the final error. I will phone you when I arrive. Again, there's no object because we have the preposition that separates at my hotel, so that is intransitive. Okay, and show answers. Intransitive. Intransitive as well, to laugh. Okay, so very, very good practice. Very important lesson. Transitive and intransitive. The next topic is just other patterns as well. And a question, if you have a comment, a question or some feedback, please put your question in the chat and I will respond to your answer after the lesson. Some verbs are both transitive and intransitive, but the object when they are transitive is the same as the subject when they are intransitive. Very tricky. So let's repeat. Some verbs are both transitive and intransitive, but the object when they are transitive, remember subject, verb, object is typically transitive, the object is the same as the subject when they are intransitive for this particular verb that is special, that has the 2 possibilities. For example, Peter closed the door. Peter is the subject, closed is the verb in the past, and the object is the door. So Peter closed the door, that's transitive. Subject, verb, object, but the verb to close is both possible transitive and intransitive, and in this special case, the object of the transitive is the subject of the intransitive. And Peter, the door closed is just a possible structure as well. Next, subject, I boil is the verb related to water, the temperature of water. It's the past simple. I boiled. An object, some water. This is transitive because we have the subject, the verb, and the object. I boil some water. The verb is to boil. It's possible transitive and intransitive. So the object for transitive becomes the subject for intransitive, the water boiled. These verbs are known as ergative verbs. So the technical grammatical explanation is ergative verbs for the verb that's possible to be transitive or intransitive. There are other kinds, other types, other sorts of verb patterns. For example, link verbs. A link verb have the structure noun, verb, and adjective. We have seen a couple of link verbs already. So you have the subject, the verb, and adjective. This is known as a link verb. She looks happy. She appears tired. He seems hungry, etc., etc. Noun, verb, and adjective. Or noun, verb, noun, which is possibly a link verb as well. he became a teacher. Okay. Some two-part verbs can have the structure noun, verb, particle, and noun. So for example, she gave back the money. She is the subject, give is the verb, and the particle back is an adjective. So like a phrasal verb maybe. She gave back the money. Or, yes, a particle is considered a preposition, I think, in this particular example. Or noun, verb, noun, particle. She gave the money back. Subject, verb, object, particle, preposition, phrasal verb. So I think this is specifically connected to phrasal verbs. Explanation. It's possible a double object verbs have the structure noun, verb, noun, noun. For example, subject, verb, object. For instance, Peter sent his mother some flowers. Peter is the subject. The verb is to send with a D for Dublin, but the T is the past. Peter sent. Object, his mother, some flowers, another object. This is a double object verb. Okay. Next, there's a structure or a pattern. Verbs followed by the infinitive, and this is very, very important because people confuse verbs followed by the infinitive with verbs followed by the ing. For instance, we plan to take a holiday. We is the subject, planned is the verb, to take is the infinitive, and the object in this case is a holiday. So we planned plus the infinitive. Or I is the subject, love is the verb, swimming is the gerund, the ing form. I love swimming. Next, verbs with that, WH and if clauses. She said that. He explained what. He asked if. These are often reporting verbs. Okay, so there's lots of interesting patterns and structures of verbs in English, and that is very, very interesting and very valuable and very useful to know this list. Let's try some exercises before we finish. So match the correct descriptions with the sentences noun for verb, noun for N for noun, and V for verb. So is this the noun plus the verb plus that? Is this the noun plus the verb plus ing, noun plus verb plus infinitive, noun plus verb plus WH clause, etc.? So I feel sick. Subject, verb, adjective. So it's noun, verb, adjective. This one. That's called a link verb. The kids want to go home. The kids is the subject. The verb is to want plus the infinitive. So that's noun, verb, infinitive. Okay, well, I think we're doing well. Time is money is a very famous expression. Time is the subject, is the verb, and money is an object, but it's noun, verb, noun. Okay, and that is known as, I forget the category, but I think we know it's noun, verb, noun. I asked if you wanted some tea. So subject, verb, if clause. So that is subject, verb plus if clause. If that's possible, yes. Noun, verb, if clause. Okay. Julia put away the shopping. Subject, verb, object. But this is the particle. So that's noun, verb, particle, noun. Yeah, noun, verb, particle, noun. Phrasal verb. Our guests have arrived. This is intransitive because there's no object. So our guest is the subject, the noun, and the verb, just noun and verb. This one, and that is considered intransitive. Shut that door, the verb to shut, and it's an imperative, it's a request, an order, an instruction, and it's verb plus noun, instruction. Yeah, verb plus noun, that's the imperative. Okay, I don't know what to do. Subject, verb in the negative, I don't know. WH clause, I don't know what to do. That is this noun, the verb, and the WH clause. Noun, verb, and WH clause. Okay. Next, I don't enjoy working in the evenings. Subject, verb, and ing, clause. Okay, so I don't enjoy working in the evenings. That is the subject, the verb, and the ing clause. Noun, verb, ing. Okay, next. I will switch the radio on. Subject, verb, object, preposition, or particle. I will switch the radio on. That is subject, verb, noun, verb, noun, particle, if it's possible. Noun, verb, noun, particle. Good. So this is logical and everything is going good. You promised that you would help me. You is the subject, promised is the verb, that clause. So noun, verb, that clause. Yeah, okay, so we're doing very, very well. And then finally, my friends lent me $600. The verb is to lend with the D, but the past is lent with the T. Subject, verb, object, object. Two objects. So that's noun, verb, noun, noun. Yeah, okay, very, very good. And that's a double object verb. I think everything is correct. Everything should be fine. 12 from 12. Okay, that is everything for today. That's a very interesting lesson today. I think we have one more lesson tomorrow, or sorry, Monday, or next week. But that lesson is very, very important. So we saw ergative verbs, link verbs, two-part verbs, double object verbs, verbs followed by the infinitive, verbs followed by the ing, and verbs with that, wh, and if. We also saw ergative, transitive, and intransitive together. And we also saw the definition of transitive and intransitive verbs. And that is the topic for today. We spoke about a dummy subject. Remember it or there. We spoke about the imperative. There's no subject for the imperative. And we spoke about the necessity to have a subject for every clause in English. And we had some examples here of the noun phrase and the verb phrase. Okay, so that is the lesson for today. I think it's very, very good. Thank you so much for watching live. Thank you for watching recorded. You can please obviously like this video if you want, or you can share this video with a friend who's interested in studying grammar. And you can leave a comment in the Facebook chat. Say hello. You can tell me where you're watching from, and I can respond to your question at the end of the lesson as well. Social media, if you want to contact me on social media, these are the details for Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and WhatsApp. They're all the possible ways to connect and follow me on social media. And this is my schedule for the moment. Next week I think will be different because we're moving to the summer, and I have a couple of different ideas as well for next week for different content. So tomorrow probably I will update you with my schedule or my plan for next week, and hopefully you can join my lessons, because this is my project to teach online since the pandemic for free and to the public. And I need to adapt to some changes. But if you want to support me, if you want to make a tip, a donation, or a payment, you can use my bank details. Or if you want to make a subscription with PayPal, you can register on PayPal, and that's a very interesting, very helpful way for me as well. Great. So thank you so much. Have a very good Saturday and enjoy your weekend, and hopefully talk to you soon. Remember, this was the topic today: clause structure, and talk to you soon.